Hello, faithful, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and if you loathe Grant Cohn and his Cohn clown clique, then you've come to the right place because we are all about intelligent and objective takes. And today we're going to be discussing the possibility of Joey Bosa joining his brother Nick on the 49ers, why San Francisco should just say no to big name trade acquisitions, what it looks like for Deebo Samuel. Will he be traded? Will he be cut? The 49ers tendering all of their exclusive rights free agents. We'll briefly touch upon that. And then I'm going to be ranking the defensive free agents, their Niners own defensive free agents, in terms of their importance to re-sign, and a couple players outside the organization that I feel strongly that the Niners should not re-sign. So let's get right into it, starting with the, if you want to call it Joey Bosa news. This basically started with the Bosa brothers' mom posting an image on social media of Joey and Nick standing together, both in 49er uniforms. And that got a lot of speculation going in terms of, obviously, the Niners need to upgrade their pass rush. And Nick and Joey said that they've wanted to play together at some point professionally. Joey is 29 going on 30. Nick, a couple years younger. Joey is still under contract with the LA Chargers for one more year, but a cap cut, pre or post June 1st, doesn't matter, would save the Chargers $25 million on the cap. That's a substantial amount. This is a team where Khalil Mack is a free agent. I'm not sure if they bring him back on a modest deal or if he goes elsewhere trying to chase a ring. They obviously need some more playmakers on offense to go with Ladd McConkey and really not much else in the passing game. So there's work to be done with the Chargers, and that $25 million upon first glance in cap savings would help. But what no one's telling you in the media, or what is not posted because it's not sexy, saving $25 million by cutting Joey Bosa is sexy. The Chargers are already $63 million under the cap. That's the fourth or fifth most cap space in the league in 2025. So there is no urgent, pressing need for the Chargers to trade Joey Bosa. Justin Herbert got his big deal. They're not paying a ton of money to their running backs, whether it's Dobbins or Gus Edwards. And I'm not sure if they actually are free agents or if they signed more than 1 year deals last season. Ladd McConkey is obviously a rookie. They have some other young receivers. Their secondary is young, in addition to Asante Samuel and Derwin James. They could use some help in the front seven. $63 million is a good amount of money. Now, $88 million is more if they were to cut Joey Bosa, but this is not like, they're not the Saints or the Seahawks or any other team that is over the salary cap by a good amount, $15, $20 million plus, and needs to get under. And teams can do that restructuring contracts. Obviously, you can release players that are high salary players. You can only designate 2 as post June 1st cap cuts. We're going to get to that momentarily. But with Bosa being under contract for 1 year, why would the Chargers cut him when they could potentially trade him and get a pick? Right? So one team I'll throw out there, the Bengals, and it looks like they're going to franchise tag wide receiver T. Higgins for a second straight year. What about a straight up swap there? Or it's Bosa and a 5th round pick for T. Higgins. However it's going to work out. Bengals get a pass rusher if they can't re-sign Trey Hendrickson. And the Chargers get a much needed weapon at wide receiver. I'm just throwing that out there. I really highly doubt it's going to happen, but they can trade Bosa for a pick. Why cut him? This, again, it always goes back to with fans or the media. NBA. The NBA summers of whatever it was in the 2010s when LeBron was going to be a free agent, or Kevin Durant, or Kyrie Irving, or other big name players, and living in the Northeast, it was always, the Knicks are saving their money for those players. And it never, ever mattered because they always re-signed with their respect, either re-signed with their respective teams before they got to free agency, before free agency started, or just decided to go somewhere else, or in some cases were traded elsewhere. This is all the Joey Bosa stuff, among others. Great discussion and speculation because there's nothing really to talk about now. We're still 3 weeks out from free agency, thereabouts, and 2 months out plus from the draft. And until the Niners start re-signing some significant players of their own, they are probably going to tender some, as I mentioned at the top, some exclusive right free agents. There's not a lot of juicy news for folks to sink their teeth into or get excited about. I mean, hell, I'm seeing on social media, people are posting images and situations from either the 2024 49ers season or 2023, giving injury updates of games that happened a year or two ago. Now, whether that's just for engagement farming or trolling or people just being complete dipshits, there is not a lot of news in 49er land. But the Joey Bosa thing is news because it's Nick Bosa's brother, because Mama Bosa decided to post that picture of both of them in a 49er uniform. But again, no guarantee he gets cut. There's a better than average chance he gets cut, but they're also losing Khalil Mack. You would think they would want one. We're not going to call him a premier pass rusher because we're going to get into the stats momentarily, but why trade? Why cut him, one, at all when you have a ton of cap space? And two, why cut him when you can trade him? Now, Joey Bosa may pull one of those cards. If you trade me to a shit team, I'm just not going to go, and just kind of veto it. Things that started with NBA players, throwing their weight around or their clout. NFL players should too. I mean, I know no one wants to be treated, if you're a professional athlete, like, a piece of property and you have no say in where your future lies. I mean, that's why I had no problem when John Elway pulled that shit in 84 or 83, whenever it was, when he came out, did not want to go to the Colts. Eli Manning did not want to go to the Chargers. I'm sure Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, if he might not be at the top of the draft anymore, but probably doesn't want to go to Tennessee, probably doesn't want to go to Cleveland, right? Like he may end up going to the Giants. Anyway, the team that he mentioned that he would play for or would be excited to play for, but Joey Bosa may have a say in his future if he gets traded, and he certainly has a say if he gets cut. But whoever gets him, it's buyer beware, right? He has only played in 28 of the past 51 possible games the last 3 seasons, 17 games a season, right? With, in total, over 3 years, 14 total sacks. Don't tell me it's part of before Harbaugh got there, it was part of the Brandon Staley defensive system, and that's why they weren't getting any sacks or pressure on the quarterback. He had Khalil Mack on the other side. It was only 14 sacks. So 14 sacks in 28 games. It's a sack every 2 games. If you extrapolate that out to a full season, that's 8.5 sacks in a season. How much is that going to be worth to anybody, right? And he's going to be 30. Not that 30 is the end of the world, but he is more name than game. And you can't, bringing an injury-prone player to San Francisco does not seem like a recipe for a successfully healthy season. Would it be fun to see the Bosa brothers play bookend each other? Sure, right? I haven't followed Joey Bosa's career closely enough the past, 5 seasons. I know he was a big deal when he came out of Ohio State and had, a couple good, handful of good seasons early on, but the last 3 have been disappointing statistically and injury-wise. And he's only an option for San Francisco if he takes a mega discount, right? They're already paying about $10 million a year each to Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos. They could save about $5, $6, $7 million on each of them if they were to cut them after June 1st. So if you could bring in Bosa, 2 years, $20 million, you could always release either Floyd or Gross-Matos after June 2nd, after training camp, after preseason, because who knows who is going to get hurt between now and beginning of September. So no need to start proactively cutting people. I know folks get excited. They'll go on Spotrac or over to cap.com and see, Who could the Niners cut or other teams cut and save money? And it's what's on those sites is factually correct. But there's no rush. Once June 2nd hits, there's no rush to cut anybody. You might as well hedge against injury, knowing you can cut someone later and save $5, $6, $7 million, right? Got to get to, I keep saying you got to get to 90 for your training camp roster. And now that cuts are happening all at the end in September, you might as well have as many talented bodies on your 90-man roster as you can. And then there's going to be some injuries, some attrition, some players not performing up to what the coaching staff thinks. Then you cut them in September. I'm lukewarm to a Joey Bosa signing. Again, would it juice up Nick Bosa and Joey playing together? Maybe give some energy to that line and Robert Saleh and the entire defense? Maybe. Probably just for the brothers more than anything. But he ultimately might be the cheapest big name option that we're going to talk about because the other two are trade candidates. We've heard a lot of what if. It's not rumors or gossip. Well, it is gossip. It's not rumors or something that's going to happen, but you've seen out there, I'm sure, proposals of what it would take to get Myles Garrett from the Browns or Max Crosby from the Raiders. Each one involves trading at least the 49ers first round pick, and maybe for Garrett, a first round pick next year, or a first and second this year and a second or third next year. And Crosby might come in a little cheaper from a trade compensation standpoint. But again, these are also trades I would stay away from. This is the second year, guys, of getting out of the Trey Lance trade pick giveaway. First round pick last year was used on Ricky Pearsall. I think surprising to a lot of us, if not all of us. Now they have a first round pick again. And if you could potentially, right? I'm just going to throw this out there. If you could potentially trade your first round pick only for Crosby or Garrett, you really strongly have to consider it because you're not going to get anyone in the first round better than those two players at 11, right? You're just not, regardless of position. But you still have to factor in what is that reworked contract for either Garrett or Crosby going to look like because they're going to want one. Are you going to have two defensive ends, Bosa and Garrett, both making over $30 million a year? I don't know. It's sustainable for maybe a year or two before the cap does become an issue. But this is a team, even though they are, I've said in previous podcasts, top heavy in areas, in a good way, they need talented, cheap pieces, starters in depth to fill out the roster. And I am not about giving up draft picks when they're just getting their draft picks back. And they have 10 scheduled picks now in April. If they have 10, they probably make 8. Anybody that's trading down in the draft in the first round to grab a certain player that you like doing mock drafts, I don't see it happening. This is not an expansion team, guys. This is not someone, and I had a back and forth with Larry Kruger, Bay Area media personality, that he thinks the Niners need to make 15 or 16 picks in this year's draft. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's no way. I would bet I would bet everything I have that they don't make 15 or 16 draft picks. I would bet a large amount of money that they don't make 10. They're probably going to make less than 10. I've been doing a lot of mock drafts, and I've just been staying put, making 10 picks, seeing who I can get. Because, again, it's a fun way to kill 5 or 10 minutes. But I don't want to give up picks, because you're getting, obviously, a singular, you hear the phrase, like a singular talent, right? In Garrett or Crosby, or a generational talent. Maybe a Garrett, Crosby, not so much. But that is a lot of finances tied up in one player for one position where they need help at D tackle. Yes, at D end. They could use another corner or two. At safety if Hufanga is going to be gone. On the offensive line. At receiver if Deebo's going to be gone and Ayuk's going to miss the first 4 to 6 weeks. Tight end 2 and tight end 3. There are needs. They cannot address everything in free agency nor in the draft, nor will they. And free agency should be moderate swings, depth swings, not necessarily vet minimum signings, but I don't see them, especially after Brock gets his contract, which should happen before free agency kicks off in March, to know what you're working with mathematically. I'm not even sure if I see a Leonard Floyd or Yetur Gross-Matos type signing where it was, 2 years, $20 million. I just don't know. Maybe one of that financial caliber. I don't know if they can do more than that because of what Brock's going to eat up. And it's not as much as people think. We're going to go into that in future podcasts. I'll just say, look at Trevor Lawrence's contract and you'll get a good sense of how Brock will not ruin the cap. So Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, just say no. As sexy as it sounds and as fun as it sounds and as dominant as it may look in Madden, it's not practical. Objectively speaking, it's not practical. This team is not one piece away. This is not midseason in 2019 where they needed Emmanuel Sanders help the passing game, right? This is not 2022 where they traded a bunch of picks for Christian McCaffrey because they were that player away, plus Brock, right? Taking over for Lance, taking over for Garoppolo to make that push. They are not one player away from anything. Even with Saleh being back, with a new defensive coordinator, with a new special teams coordinator, they're not. They need to build for today and tomorrow. That's what last draft was, with Grendo and Pearsall and Mustafa and Pooney and Cowing and Renardo Green. A lot of those players played significant snaps this year, but in 2024, but an eye to 2025 because of free agency and because of the need to get cheaper. No thank you, Myles. No thank you, Max. And probably no thank you, Joey. We'll stay with the thank yous. Thanks for everything that you did, Deebo Samuel. You will be gone. The question is it going to be a trade or a cut? And to me, it's he's going to get cut. He's going to get cut with a post June 1st designation. It's going to save San Francisco $5.1 million. They will take a $10.7 million cap hit, and there will be some cap hit in 2026 as well. Any trades you're seeing speculation on, we'll send Deebo to Cleveland as a package deal for Garrett or to Las Vegas for Crosby. The Niners will take a $31 million cap hit if he is traded before June 1st or by June 1st. I don't think Deebo is going to want to stick around till June 2nd. I don't think there's any animosity there, but I think the Niners want a quick resolution to that. All things being equal, if you could trade him, you would, right? So you can avoid, even though Deebo is not at the level of Saquon Barkley at their respective positions, the Giants, when they had the chance to trade Barkley, should have traded him out of the division and out of the conference. If John Mara's fear was that he was going to ever go to Philadelphia, you had a hand in controlling that and getting compensation, better compensation back from him than what you're going to get as a comp pick. Deebo's going to get cut and he's going to see what his market is. He, in my opinion, will be one post June 1st cap cut, and Javon Hargrave at D tackle, we already know, is the other post June 1st cap cut. Those two cuts combined, I think, are going to save the Niners about $8 million in cap space. Not a ton, but it helps, especially since they already saved close to $20 million during the season when they restructured Javon Hargrave's contract, all but assuring he was going to be gone in the offseason. Now, let's get to some free agency stuff. The 49ers reportedly will be tendering all of their exclusive rights free agents. I mentioned this last podcast. Makes sense. Doesn't hurt to do. Again, you got to get to 90 players, and these are non-guaranteed contracts, meaning you can cut this player anytime. You can sign him on a Wednesday, cut him on a Thursday. Save whatever the money is, and generally it is the minimum based on how long the player has been with the team. So these players are offensive tackle Austin Pleasance, who shared time with Charlie Heck the last game of the season at Arizona when Trent Williams was out at left tackle. Tight ends Jake Tonjes and Braden Willis. On defense, defensive end Alex Barrett, Sam Okiwanu, defensive tackle Evan Anderson, and linebacker Jalen Graham. Now, none of these players are in any way, shape, or form guaranteed to make the roster. I think Evan Anderson at D tackle has a pretty good chance. I think right now, Jake Tonjes, because there's no other tight end signed other than George Kittle, has a decent chance. But I think the Niners are going to go tight end in free agency and the draft. And if they take 4, maybe Tonjes is the 4th or beats out whoever they bring in as a free agent. Jordan Willis maybe as linebacker 5. Jalen Graham maybe as linebacker 5. And Braden Willis, I'm not sure he's going to stick on the 53, maybe the practice squad again. So all 7 exclusive rights free agents have been tendered. Logical move. There is no downside financially. And if a better player comes along at the same position or another position, easy to cut, no financial ramifications. Now, I teased this on previous podcasts, and I want to discuss, I am ranking the 49ers' own defensive free agents based on importance and likelihood to return. And I went through this list a couple times, moving some players around. Importance and likelihood to return sometimes are diametrically opposed. They're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So at some point, something had to win out. And I think earlier on in the list, it's the likelihood to return, and later on, it's the importance. But let's go through the 11 free agents that the Niners have. 11th, Devondre Campbell, obviously not coming back. Let's move on. 10th, cornerback Charvarius Ward. He's not coming back, right? He's not coming back. What we've heard from him in terms of the tragedy of losing a child, his daughter, while playing, for the 49ers in the Bay Area. And then he had another baby, several months later, a son, which is wonderful news. But he's come out and said the memories, the thoughts of being there in that geographic area with the team, it's going to bring up too much emotionally for him. And he has recently come out on social saying, whoever's going to get me is going to get a hungry player. That's great. That plus his financial hit, he is a $12 million void year dead cap hit. So they're going to be paying on the cap for him not to be on the roster. If Ward were to resign, that $12 million would either disappear or be spread out throughout the life of the new contract that Ward would sign, but it's not going to happen. Demo got his raise, $15+ million a year. Renardo Green had a very promising rookie season. Darrell Luter's the only other cornerback on the team. So they need to bring in 2, if not 3 starting caliber quarterbacks. And I'm sure they'll bring in outside free agents, another draft pick to stay, young and cheap. You need to have that mix because they went very veteran heavy this season with Renardo Green being a rookie, Darrell Luter being a second-year player, and then midway through the season or 3/4 of the way through the season, he was put on IR, and Nick McLeod joined from the Giants. But Ward is gone. There will be a veteran free agent coming in, probably as that number 3 starting cornerback, whether it's outside or in the nickel, wherever you want to move Diamador Lenore, I'm fine with. But Charvarius Ward, due to his past and price tag, is not going to happen. 9th, safety Tayshaun Gibson, 34 years old, going to be 35 during the season. Helped out the last couple games, saw some spot duty. But there's a youth movement at safety, right? They still have George Odom, who's no guarantee to stay. As he was signed basically for special teams, and their special teams unit stunk. We'll see how that changes with the new special teams coordinator coming in. Tayshaun Gibson might be a practice squad player. I can't see him on the 53. I can't see there being urgency to sign him. He was important during his starting tenure, but you have to turn the page at some point. Last year they did, with Jair Brown, with Malik Mustafa as a rookie, Talanoa Hufanga coming back from the knee injury only to hurt his wrist, and obviously George Odom. And they played with 3 safeties with some elevations from the practice squad throughout the season, but I think Gibson's a practice squatter at best. Defensive tackle Kevin Givens, been with the team for 6 years. I think a pretty good rotational player on the D-line. I think the Niners have seen who he is, what he does, what he's about. He's 6'1", 285, a bit undersized at D tackle. And with Saleh coming on board, I mean, Saleh's had experience coaching Kevin Givens the first 2 years. And Givens was an undrafted rookie free agent out of Penn State. So he's self-made. Good for him. And he's going to get a bigger payday probably elsewhere than what the Niners would offer. But that run defense was bad. And I'm not saying Kevin Givens is to blame. He's a rotational piece. We'll see who sticks around between Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott at D tackle. If, Evan Anderson sticks on the 53, I think he will. This is a team that I think should carry 10 defensive linemen, 5 at D end and 5 at D tackle. I don't think Kevin Givens is one of them. Number 7, cornerback Rock Ya-Sin. So 7th out of 11. We're getting into the middle section of like kind of will they, won't they. Rock Ya-Sin did not get a ton of opportunities. He was more or less buried on the depth chart. He was inactive for a handful of games. He is a veteran, right? And he has that. Anybody that is a veteran gives comfort level to a certain comfort level to Kyle and the coaching staff. He didn't perform poorly when he was in there. He isn't a scrub. I think Rock Ya-Sin has the possibility, I would put it under 50% right now, but the possibility to come back. Could he be another veteran practice squad player? Maybe. Remember, you can only have, I think, 6 of them out of your 16 total with being players with more than 2 years of NFL experience. In front of him, I put fellow cornerback Nick McLeod, joined the 49ers mid to 3/4 of the way through the season, signed from the Giants practice squad, or no, I'm sorry, he was released from the Giants practice squad, signed to the Niners practice squad, and eventually elevated. More a special teams. He has starting experience with the Giants, didn't start a ton of games, but has starting experience. Did get in there in defensive packages, was not relegated solely to special teams. But I think he has an opportunity to potentially come back as a secondary player, but obviously a special teams player as well. And it might be a he or George Odom situation, even though they play different positions. You can get Nick McLeod cheaper than George Odom. If they release George Odom, I think they save a little over $2 million on the cap. If they bring in another young rookie at safety and maybe go the veteran route, have one veteran coming in, a free agent somewhere, if it's not Talanoa Hufanga, re-signing. So you kind of have a blend of a third-year player in Jair Brown, a second-year player in Mustafa, a rookie should they draft one, and a veteran if they decide to keep McLeod for special teams and potentially get rid of George Odom. 5th, defensive tackle Khalil Davis. He was a trade deadline acquisition from the Texans for a 7th-round pick. I have him above Givens. He's a year older, but a bit more stout against the run. 6'2", 315. More of a pure, nose tackle, run stuffer. Again, not guaranteed to get back. And the run defense, again, not all on Davis, not all on Kevin Givens. It was teamwork to be that bad. It was a team effort to be that porous against the run. But when you're getting down to defensive tackles 4 and 5, and who knows who 1, 2, and 3 are going to be. If the Niners draft a D tackle in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round, they bring one in from outside the organization. You look at Elliott, you look at Collins, you look at Anderson. It's not that there's 2 positions open. You got to get to 5, but it could be a very different looking 5 in 2025 than it was in 2024. But Khalil Davis, I think, is on that bubble. 50% coin flip chance of coming back. 4th, Curtis Robinson at linebacker. Now, I have him this high because I think in terms of a likelihood, I'm not sure if Dre Greenlaw is going to be back. I know Matt Mayoko and others have said, I think it makes sense seeing that he was not healthy during this past season, tried to come back the first game, got re-injured, and then the second game he came back, he was only in for 4 plays and then done for the season. Curtis Robinson's coming off of an ACL, so it's another player with a leg ailment, but there's going to be an opportunity opposite Fred Warner if Dre Greenlaw doesn't return. And I think there's the better likelihood that Curtis Robinson returns and Dre Greenlaw doesn't. But this is where the top portion of my list leans more towards importance of re-signing versus likelihood. But still, in the top third of this list, linebacker Curtis Robinson with the potential to be linebacker 2, but certainly could fill a 3, 4, or 5 slot on this team. Number 3, and people may be aggravated by this, but Isaac Yiadom did not play terribly or all that poorly when he was in. And I know there's people out there that are ready to move on from him already, and that's totally fine. But when you're talking about cornerback 3, 4, or 5, cornerback 3 is a starter. Cornerback 4 and 5, and they carried 6 for, I think, all of this past season. You're telling me you could do a whole lot better at corner 4, 5, or 6 than Isaac Yiadom? Say even just 5 or 6? He can play. He hasn't played a ton of special teams, but he can play special teams. He's a better quarter than Nick McLeod, who is, I rank 6th on this list, who's more special teams than defensive player. Certainly not a starter. And he could be had for vet minimum or close to it. And if you give him a vet minimum contract for another year, he didn't have a great year in San Francisco. I don't think there's tape where another team's like, oh, I got to overpay for Isaac Yiadom. But again, and you're going to be bringing in numbers. If you keep 5 or 6 defensive backs, you're going to be bringing in 10 between in-house, outside free agency, the draft, and unrestricted rookie free agents. Got to rebuild that secondary with only 3 under contract. Number 2, Talanoa Hufanga. Again, this is more, and I'm not even sure this is importance or likelihood, because I've been on record saying I think they need to move off of Talanoa Hufanga. He's too similar to Malik Mustafa. He's not a free safety with range. I think they need more of a ball hawk. He's been injury prone the last 2 seasons. Are you going to pay someone $10, $12+ million annually, which is probably what he's going to get, a former all-pro Pro Bowl player? May not get a long contract, might be a 1-year deal. Somewhere else to prove that he's healthy, 1 year, $8, $10 million. If I'm the Niners, I don't give that. I think that's too much for a player that's had health issues and is not versatile enough. I mean, versatile. The Niners want their safeties to be interchangeable, but I don't want 2 strong safeties interchanging. I want a strong safety that could maybe play single high free safety, and I want a free safety that could definitely play single high but can come down in the box for run support as well. The duplication that Talanoa Hufanga provides, and yet, he'll make splash plays here and there, but takes bad angles, isn't fast, and is coming off of 2 injuries. Let him walk. And number 1 is Dre Greenlaw. All right. In terms of importance, and he was not in enough this season to really make any sort of educated decision on, was the running game better with him or without him? I think it was holistically bad. Dre Greenlaw is an energy starter on that defense, right? Gets guys juiced. Fred Warner loves playing with him. Nick Bosa mentioned that in his welcome back communication to Robert Saleh, that Saleh was adamant about bringing Greenlaw back. And I said earlier, Matt Mayoko said, I see a path where it's a 1-year prove it deal with Dre Greenlaw so he can prove that he's healthy. So at the end of 2025, going to 2026, he gets the bag, gets that big deal. Is that a possibility? Sure. And a healthy Greenlaw would make the 49ers defense a lot better. Not going to question that. One, are you going to get a healthy Greenlaw? There's no guarantees at all. And yes, any injury like an Achilles or an ACL, everyone says it's the second year back. And he tore his in February. So really, when the season starts in September, he'll be 1.5 seasons back. Little more than that. You have the cost issue, right? For San Francisco, an 8-year, 1 year, $8 million. They add a void year on that. It's a $4 million cap hit each year. Not terrible, but that's if Dre Greenlaw wants to bet on himself if no market develops. If no market develops. And there are teams, we mentioned the Chargers, the Patriots, I think, are at the top of the list. The Commanders have a lot of cap space, and that's Adam Peters as the GM, formerly assistant GM of the Niners. He knows Niners players very well. Dre Greenlaw may want to, and so I've heard people say this, may want to run his own shop. As much as he loves Fred Warner, he may want to be the lead dog somewhere else. And all it takes, guys, is one team to throw a lot of money at a player. As much as any 49er fans want to say, oh, well, Dre, come back to San Francisco. You have a better chance at a chip. Says who? Washington was in the NFC Championship game. Aren't they closer technically than San Francisco is? And who knows how they're going to upgrade their roster this season because they still have Jaden Daniels on a cost control contract for at least 2 more seasons. The question is, would he want to go to someplace like a Chargers, or Los Angeles, a Washington, playoff ready teams? Or would you take more and go to a garbage team like New England and try to build a defense there? It's got to be hard for players who have known more often than not success to go to a crap team for money. Although the shelf life of these players is so short, Dre Greenlaw could be done by 31, 32 years old. And hopefully he lives another 50 years and he needs money for that. So getting the bag is not a bad thing. Chasing, you could be a ring chaser for cheap or a bag chaser for money. Both are defendable. And he may be a ring chaser. He may be an expensive ring chaser if he goes to someone like Washington. If he goes to someone like Kansas City, which I don't think he would, and they have Nick Bolton at linebacker already. I'm just making he's not going to go to Philadelphia even if Zach Bowen leaves as a free agent, right? Could he potentially go to the Rams? Yeah. Rams defense is young, up and coming. They could use a veteran, a dynamic veteran if he's healthy in the middle. For me, I see it never hurts to ask. I see if you could I would ask, what's Great Dre looking for before free agency starts, especially if it's true that Robert Saleh's adamant about bringing him back. What's Dre looking for? Can you finagle him down to something San Francisco that you could live with for the next year, 2 or 3? You could say the same about Talanoa Hufanga, but these are players, whatever their injuries were, knee, wrist, ankle, leg, Achilles, calf, leg, Achilles. All it takes is one team. All it takes is one team to have enough faith that they're going to stay healthy and throw money at them. And it's going to be hard for any player to turn their head or throw their nose up at a significant offer, even if it's for a team that is not quite playoff caliber, like the New England Patriots. Let's conclude with 2 players that I've seen the Niners link to that I strongly, strongly believe they're not going to sign. And they're 2 DJs. DJ Reed formerly of the Jets and potentially formerly of the Jets. He's a free agent, and free agent DJ Jones of the Denver Broncos. Reed is going to be 29 years old, started his career coming out of Kansas State with the Niners, was cut when he had a pec injury, thought that he would clear waivers and revert to their IR, did not. Seahawks claimed him, had a couple good years in Seattle, followed Robert Saleh to the Jets. Got a 3-year, $33 million deal from the Jets 3 years ago. I don't care about, not that I don't care. The Robert Saleh connection doesn't matter. The Niners connection doesn't matter. The Niners just paid Demo $15 million a year. That's not quite his cap hit, but that's his average annual value. They have a $12 million void year cap hit with Charvarius Ward in 2025. They are not devoting however much it's going to cost to sign DJ Reed to the roster and devote that much to 2 cornerbacks on the roster, if Reed and Demo, and 1 cornerback in Ward who's not on the roster. Not coming back. And DJ Jones, another player, formerly of the Niners, went to Denver, got a 3-year, $30 million deal. He's going to be 30 years old. Maybe he doesn't get 3 years, 30 million. And he was pretty durable in Denver from another team. But I think the Niners have to go cheaper than that, which is why I think a first or second round draft pick and a free agent, you wait till the first and second wave of free agency is over and you bring in a role player D tackle to help out. Now, if DJ Jones is a possibility to come back and the Niners can work out some sort of not even fair market, under market value, they can cut Collins or Elliott literally after June 1st. And they could save about $3 million each with a release. So you could bring in Jones and release one of your D tackles and hopefully offset some of that money that DJ Jones may get. I just think, guys, this is reminiscent of the girl or guy that broke up with you, that you're pining for, that you want a reunion for, whether they treated you bad or not. That idea of being spurned by someone is unsettling. It doesn't sit well with a lot of people. You're always like, well, why wasn't I good enough? And you have now they're free and available, and there's an opportunity to not reconcile, but reconnect. A lot of people pine for that or hope for that. I don't think that needs to be the case here. And the Niners may not sign players that are better than DJ Reed or DJ Jones at their respective positions. They may be draft picks. They may be free agents that are cheaper, that fiscally fit into what the Niners are going to do, especially since they have so much devoted on the D-line already between Bosa, Yatir Gross-Matos, and Floyd. And those latter 2 defensive ends, Floyd or Gross-Matos, one of those 2 could be a post-June 1st cap cut if someone cheaper, if it's a draft pick, comes in and outperforms them, and they could save $6, $7, $8 million on a DN. If a Joey Bosa comes in on a under market contract. I just think this is a situation where folks are seeing former Niner, let's sign him. Doesn't need to be that way. It's already a case or a situation when people look at it and go, oh, that player was cut. Let's sign him. Player was cut. Sign him. You see it all the time, right? As long as they're not a scrub or a marginal player, anything that's average or above, that player's cut. Sign him. Raheem Mostert was cut for the Dolphins. People are saying to sign him, a 32, 33-year-old running back who has injury issues also. Yeah, he knows the system with Kyle. Was a Niner before. You don't always have to go with the familiar. Now, meanwhile, they went with Robert Saleh because Kyle Shanahan is all about familiarity when it comes to the cover 3 defense. But I don't think the familiar when it comes to free agents. and free agents that are going to cost a pretty penny at positions they're already devoting a lot of money to is necessarily the most prudent or logical way to go. So that concludes the podcast for today and probably this week, unless there's major news happening later on in the week, as I am recording this on Tuesday. Like always, I want to thank you for devoting time out of your busy schedule to make us part of your listening routine. Whatever you guys are doing between now and then, stay happy, healthy, and safe, guys. We will talk soon. Take care.